Hey there folks, welcome back to another Let's Talk About video where I discuss and sort of review other games I'm playing. Today we're going to be taking a look at Mycopunk, a first-person co-op shooter developed by Pigeons That Play and published by Devolver Digital. Mycopunk has a good mixture of features and ideas from many games that may seem familiar to you, and in general, it seems like a pretty solid start and good foundation for an early access game. Yes, it is early access, I know it's an automatic no-go for some gamers, I get it, but at least give this video a chance before you preemptively disregard this entire title. So, per the usual, when I do these, I'm going to talk about some of the key points about the game, like the story, the graphics, and the performance, as well as the gameplay progression and that whole loop. So let's just get right into it. Now, there's not much of a story here, which is usually one of my talking points, but from what I've pieced together, you're basically a robot employed by the Saxon Industries, a sort of mega corporation, who's investigating the rampant fungal growth on the planet New Atlas. You're tasked with clearing the infestation and gathering supplies and resources and returning them back to the ship in orbit. Your boss-like creature, Rochard, is there to be comic relief and kind of provide you with a drop ship and your supplies on your mission. So with that out of the way, let's get into the actual game and start with the graphics and performance. Starting with the graphics, which are a big topic of debate because some players hate it and some people think it's fine. The general art style has a very bright pastel kind of palette, and it's sort of cel shaded, I guess. Like, people like to compare it to the looks of Borderlands, of course, but Mycopunk doesn't really have those heavy inky outlines that's pretty synonymous with Borderlands. There's also the weird glow and the UI distorted effects that some people really can't tolerate, kind of myself included. Thankfully, you can reduce those heavily in the graphics settings. I get the idea. It's supposed to look like you're playing through like an old CRT TV, since like everything else around you is made of garbage and debris, it seems. It makes sense that this is like an older looking style visual, but for some people I play with or just talk to, like, they really just don't like the graphics, and that kind of trims them off and away from playing the game to start, or at least, you know, even giving it a chance. But you do really get used to it, and you do kind of just ignore it after a while. I do get the initial reactions of some people, and that's fair. It can be hard on the eyes, and you can't really sink a lot of time into a game if it hurts your eyes. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out there because it is a big topic. I don't mind it personally, but again, you're just kind of going to get used to it. Next, let's go with the performance. Now, I played with this on both a laptop with a 9th Gen i7 CPU and a mobile 37 GPU, as well as my main desktop, which is a 12th Gen i9 and 4080 Ti. Both of these machines run Mycopunk very well at 90 plus frames per second, and I've had very little issues with frame drops. I think I can count twice where the game has stuttered for a few seconds after a huge explosion of enemies in like my 50 hours of gameplay, which is very impressive. But also, it's not really the most graphically intense game around, so it's not that demanding. I'm just too used to bad PC games these days. I've also experienced 0 crashes and maybe only 2 or 3 bugs where like a quest item or a boss would clip through the ground and be gone forever and kind of, mess up the mission. So overall, pretty solid for me. Now, I have had a few other friends who play it on a Steam Deck and a laptop with like a 2060 card, and they don't have any problems or issues either, though that's not my direct experience, so I can't say that for sure, but they claim it runs fine too. I have no input on console experience, I don't play on consoles, so yeah, for PC, pretty good performance. But by now, with enough of this background footage, you can probably see the general gameplay. It's really fast and hectic. The general loop of the game is that you want to select a mission from the hub with an appropriate level and swarm density, deploy to the surface, complete your objectives, gain resources and rewards, and then return to do it again. It's got the same kind of loop of like Helldivers or Destiny. Of course, missions can come with randomly placed modifiers which provide additional challenges with increased experience gain, and no two missions are going to end up exactly the same despite the fact that there are only like 5 different mission types right now. It's like Helldivers in that regard, where the maps are kind of the same, but not really, and you do get dropped at different spots on the maps, and enemy spawns are going to be different, so there's never really going to be 2 of the same mission, which does keep things a little bit fresh over time, but obviously we're going to need more content, though it is just early access. While Mycopunk is a co-op game for up to 4 players, you can't do everything solo, and while I'm not the best player around, I could still comfortably deal with difficulty 5 of 6 on my own just fine. Unlike Helldivers, I don't really feel punished for dropping solo or not being able to do the absolute hardest content solo. Players can drop in and out of your game as well, even if you're on an active mission, just fine. And while player count doesn't seem to affect the HP or damage of enemies, they do increase the spawn count, so there will be more enemies when more players, but it doesn't get very bullet spongy, which is great. Speaking of, so let's talk about the enemies, because they're definitely kind of weird. Here in Mycopunk, the enemies are fungal spores, which come with like metal casings around their core. These spores have various limbs, ranging from like stabby hands, miniguns, lasers, and floating platforms and such, as well as other attachments such as bombs and zero-grav modules and shield projectors. As you kill the enemies, you can either blow off their limbs, leaving the core limbless and basically harmless, for a time at least, or you can destroy the core, in which case the limbs are going to fall off and just land on the ground. You need to keep track of both, because limbs left behind can be grabbed by new spores that spawn in, and any spore left alive long enough will seek out new limbs, to go ahead and reattach to before continuing their pursuit of you. It just kind of feel like fighting necromorphs at times. These spores tend to come in various shapes and sizes, with more limbs and parts attached to them, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're going to be constantly having to evaluate the field for your highest threats to take down for sure. But also there are bombs and explosions everywhere, so you really just can't stop moving. The game is very, very fast paced in that regard. So you might be thinking by now, what's the hook? It looks really repetitive. And to that I say, what game isn't repetitive, really? But honestly, the hook here is the progression and build crafting. I love making builds in video games. If anyone watches my channel, you should know that by now. Especially ones that can be kind of uniquely mine, to a degree, because there's always limits. Mycopunk does the progression and build crafting systems very well, and that is the main hook of the game in my opinion. What you have to work with is basically one character of 4, each with 2 unique abilities, typically one movement ability and one other ability. The Wrangler, which has a rocket lasso that can be used to pull yourself out of a sticky situation, and you also have your air dash, which is to get around more, both of which can be augmented for the offensive capabilities for sure. Then you have the Bruiser, who's got his shields that block enemies and projectiles, as well as a big jump and ground slam. And then you have the Glider, who can obviously glide and fly around a little bit and shoot rockets that both damage enemies and heal allies. And then you have the last character that I don't particularly like, who's got a pole that you can spin around on and a jetpack. So yeah, all these abilities can be modified by upgrades that you can get from their character tree as you gain levels, and you can spend your points on any character at any point. You don't have to follow the tree branches at all. Just once you unlock more, you can unlock them all for all your characters. Trust me, it'll make sense. But basically, if you have all your characters at level 10, then you can use all those points on one character, or you can just grab the exotic perks for all your characters without having to go through all the trees. It's pretty free to do these upgrades. And so with your character, you're also going to have 3 weapons to choose from. Basically, it's just 2. It's not like a primary, secondary kind of thing. It's just 2 whatever weapons you want in the game. And as these things level up, you're going to upgrade your little honeycomb tree, and that'll allow you to fit more upgrades in them. And then as you obviously kill enemies and stuff, you'll get upgrades for them. And then you have your grenade, which can be one of 3 types. You have a fire, corrosive, or a shock grenade, which of course can be modified to do all sorts of crazy things. And between all of these weapons and then the characters, you kind of just have a lot of room to play with. And of course, you can still save your loadouts and do whatever you need to. So, trust me, there's just a lot here. You're always wanting to get more resources to craft new upgrades for a piece of equipment, or try and get more power out of your build. And as you complete missions and kill enemies, you're going to receive upgrades for your players and your equipment, and then you can unlock them with resources you find on your maps and by doing side objectives. And these upgrades get put into this honeycomb-like upgrade tree, and it's going to be your job to try and fit everything you need to into this tree as efficiently as possible. And every upgrade has a unique shape, so a lot of your time is going to be spent here trying to puzzle piece your way into fitting one more perk on your weapon or character. And while it may seem extremely tedious at first, and you're definitely going to be spending at least 30% of your game time trying to fit these pieces in, it does eventually become extremely satisfying to cram in one more perk just when you get set up just right. Also, when you get to level 30 and you can unlock the ability to rotate the pieces, it makes it so much easier to fit in more parts, which also does feel amazing. These upgrades can also drastically change the behavior of your guns and your grenades, your class skills, and allow you a lot of personal freedom for build making, which is my favorite part. Like a default gun versus a gun with 9 mods on it, entirely different. It turns into a standard FPS into Borderlands style shooting guns. It goes from crazy to crazier really quick. Now, playing with the upgrades does feel a lot like building a character in Destiny, where you're kind of building around an exotic weapon and armor and trying to find synergies with everything else. So if you like doing builds there, or even Borderlands really, you're going to like it here in Mycopunk as well. And honestly, that's still the biggest props I give to this game. Like, it feels like a really good mix between Borderlands and Destiny, and a little bit of a Helldivers gameplay loop. So if you like those styles of games, you'll definitely like Mycopunk. Just, you gotta get past the art style if it doesn't really suit you. And that's kind of the general gist of Mycopunk. For an early access title, there's still a lot of secrets to find, quests to complete, content to enjoy, and I'm going well into 60 plus hours by the time this video comes out. And for a $15 buy-in, I think this game has a lot of potential going forward, as long as the devs stick to their roadmap, which I should have posted here. And being that it's Devolver Digital published, they usually have an eye for, devs and games. So, I'm going to give them some slack here and say that, even though it's an early access, and I know early access is a risk, because, I'm still waiting for Witchfire to come out, but Mycopunk seems like a relatively cheap option that I could safely say that, yeah, this is going to be worth it in my opinion. Anyway, that's going to be all for me. Quick video, just wanted to get that out there. Thank you all, good luck out there folks, and I'm going to go back and shoot some spores. Thanks, bye.